Hi everyone, it's Drew McGuire here from Auckland in New Zealand. Really excited to be talking to Aston Moss from Briscoe's today about how Briscoe's have used Axonify through what has been a very dynamic year with the COVID situation. Aston, can you introduce yourself and maybe just tell us a little bit about scope and scale of Briscoe's Group?
Sure, Drew. Nice to be online with you this morning and have a bit of a chat. It's a much more flattering photo of me than how I look today, I suspect. So, hi, I'm Aston Moss. I'm the Group General Manager of Human Resources for Briscoe Group. We are a homewares, sporting goods retailer based down here in the beautiful island nation of New Zealand, down in the South Pacific. We operate Briscoe's Homewares, Rebel Sports Stores and Living and Giving Homewares stores. We have about 90 stores spread from the top to the bottom of the country, and the brands are spread reasonably equally across the country. And we have anywhere between 2,000 and 2,500 people, depending upon the time of year that we are talking about.
Brilliant, thank you. Let's move forward, and I think one of the important things for everybody to know that might be watching this today is that Briscoe Group has actually won Axonify's All-Rounder of the Year award, and this is pretty much to do with the degree to which Briscoe's has been able to embed Axonify into their organisation and really create a learning culture. It's really exciting. It's been escalated and accelerated even further this year with the onset of COVID, so that's what we're going to talk a bit more about today. Just in terms of levels of engagement in the platform, on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see that Briscoe's had pretty impressive engagement in the platform anyway. On the right-hand side of the slide, you can see how that really accelerated to what I think is quite mind-blowing levels of engagement in the platform, both from a participation point of view, but a frequency point of view as well. So we're going to talk a lot more about that with Aston over the next few minutes. Those of you in the Axonify world will know what some of this means, but there's some comments here and some data that again is related to participation and frequency in the platform by Briscoe's frontline employees. So again, we'll explore these a bit further with Aston. Okay, let's jump into our chat, Aston, and what I'll do is I will just take us out of this PowerPoint deck, and now it's just you and I.
Terrific.
Okay, so it's been quite a year. So what's been the impact of the COVID situation on your business to date?
As with many organisations, both here in New Zealand and I'm sure overseas as well, COVID's had a profound impact. Everyone seems to like using the word or overusing the word unprecedented, and relatively few, if any, of my colleagues can talk about when they've been faced with similar kinds of challenges. Our stores were closed for about 49 days, originally closed and not able to trade in any way, shape or form, and then eventually to open up online fulfilment to our full range. And as we slowly move through different alert levels and to lower restrictions, we were able to subsequently kick off with click and collect. So customers not coming in and browsing in stores so much, but able to purchase online and then collect from our stores, and eventually reopening our stores in Auckland, where we have a large concentration of stores. We then subsequently had some tightening restrictions a few weeks ago as a result of a flare-up with infections. That's proven to be a little bit challenging, particularly where borders are concerned from the Auckland province. Meant some people couldn't actually come to work, or some people couldn't go to their place of work, but overall that's pretty much where it's been, and during that time our team have been amazing.
Yeah, they certainly have. So what I remember talking to you when this stuff first, when the COVID thing first kicked off, and one of the things that really impressed me was a conversation you shared with me about the exec team's commitment to your frontline employees and putting your people first. So could you share with us a little bit about how that conversation went and what your commitment was to your people at the exec team table?
Sure. We had a few days sort of lead into what was going to happen, and the early stages with some quite significant action around lockdowns and shutdowns of businesses, etc. As a lead team, we're a pretty small lead team. There are 7 of us who sit around the Monday morning meeting table, and a slightly smaller group at different times, depending upon what the issues are. But we started with what are we trying to do here? And one of the keys for us was, this thing will come to an end. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we do know that all things come to an end at some stage. And when that happens, what we want is for our team and our customers to be right there with us and have continued confidence as to shop if they're a customer, and continued trust and confidence in us as a business and as a leadership team, that we understand, their value to us. So once we started with those thoughts in mind and knowing, well, we're only going to come out of this strong if we treat all of our people well right from the get-go. And we're mindful some other organisations made some different choices. We made some choices such as shutting down a little bit early and that kind of thing. So we lost some sales, but I think the goodwill that we got through that was pretty important. The other thing that was quite critical, and we discussed quite, I would say intensely, but it wasn't a hard discussion, was around understanding that our team members, so our workforce, they are reliant upon receiving their weekly incomes. And what they were faced with was a whole lot of uncertainty, not just from our business, but if it was a household or a family or a couple or whatever, not everyone was going to necessarily make the same decisions that we did. And so what was important for us is that heading into the lockdown, the team knew that their weekly income was guaranteed, and we knew that that could at least remove one pressure from their shoulders, knowing that that income would still continue to come in while they were unable to come to work, we were unable to offer work, etc. And we thought that was really important.
Yeah. And I say, that's worked unbelievably well for you guys. And then what your team were able to do is keep that front line super engaged through lockdown and then through the various levels that we've been through here in New Zealand. So how did you guys go about doing that?
Yeah, well, as they say in real estate, real estate talks about what's the 3 most important things: location, location, location. From an HR perspective, I'm a firm believer that the 3 most important things are communication, communication, and communication. And that's pretty much what we said is, how do we stay in touch with our team? It's a distributed workforce. They don't work necessarily 5 days a week when they are with us. It's often part-time. They're spread from one end of the country to the other. We're not terribly high-tech as an organisation, but the one tool that we've got, the one tool that everybody is on, is Axonify. So let's look at all of the functionality that we've got in there. We know we can communicate to our team. How do we make sure we can also reverse that channel and hear from them as we need to? So that was a really important bit, knowing that we could get some consistency of message. We could listen to, we could hear from them as we needed to and listen to what they were saying. And at the same time, what we'd be able to do is use the platform in some different ways so that there was a reason for coming back to the platform. It was really important that people felt the platform was giving them some value, not just being used as someone's mouthpiece. So, I have to take my hat off to my team. They did a fantastic job. Yeah. And we leveraged pretty much every part of the platform that we could to enable us to do that. And, I use the term platform, and I'm going to say right from the get-go, it's a really technical, very blunt instrument of a term, and, it doesn't do anywhere near the justice that it should do for Axonify, because Axonify has been transformational and proven its worth many times over this year in particular.
Yes, Scott. And did you adapt your content strategy through that lockdown and post-lockdown here in New Zealand? Were you doing specific campaigns or content drops
Yep, so we used, that's a good question, Drew, really good question. So we did a number of things. We knew we needed to be able to get company messages out there. So we often did videos from our leadership, members of our leadership team. So here's where we are, this is what's happening, checking in that they're okay. You know, we do want to hear from you if things aren't going well, but equally let us know, obviously, if things are going well. Tell us what's useful, tell us what you feel that you need to know. So there was some strong messaging around that. There was also the need to, as things progressed, for us to be able to put additional content on the platform. Things like hand washing, safe use of masks, safe use of gloves, and it was great to be able to get that from Content Exchange and add that into our portfolio of or our suite of programs out there. We were also then able to deploy some new content that we'd worked on with yourselves around the mental health and well-being. Again, a lot of people have found COVID and the circumstances that come out of these kind of issues quite stressful and building some anxiety, and we knew that people's mental health and well-being was important as their physical health and well-being, and was important as their financial health and well-being. So to be able to put new content out there was incredibly important in that domain, and we also used it to put out some new content to keep people engaged around some of the products that we sell. And then the last bit that we added to that, if that wasn't enough, was using some of our brand ambassadors. So we're lucky to sell a number of high-profile brands globally, and we had wonderful brand ambassadors, some international like Jamie Oliver, the chef, and others more local like Simon Gault, the chef. We have our own in-house personality, Tammy, the Briscoe's lady, so she occasionally came on and sent messages to the team, etc. We had world-class athletes take part. We had all of them adding messages, and some of them were just expressions of goodwill. Some of them were hints and tips for staying well during lockdown. So it was quite rich as a variety of different types of content, but we always made sure that it was relevant, and I think that's one of the key that got us the 30-odd% lift in frequency.
Yeah, and you guys, I know you guys have made a very cool video case study of the different sorts of content that you've just mentioned. So I'm sure if anyone's interested in having a look at that, you'd be happy to share that. And you can contact either me or Aston directly to get a copy of that, because it's seriously cool and will give you some really great ideas. What have you learned about the adaptability of your people through this time?
What I'd probably say to that is less so the learning, but more the validation that our people are amazing. That's the starting point. Yeah. People are on a spectrum from the absolute rock stars to those who aren't, and they move up and down that depending upon what's going on in their world. Their world might be their work world or their personal world, and COVID, you know, let's face it, COVID has often turned that inside out, where, you know, home is work and work is home. You know, people have had different challenges, but by and large, a whole lot of people have just risen to the challenge. You know, I always watch the 80% podcasts and listen to JD on those, and you know, one of the things that came through, and I think it was Evan Parks who was talking about the front line, and you know, I'm going to take a slightly different angle on that and go, look, I respect both JD and Evan, but what I would say is, for us, the whole organisation lifted. It wasn't just our frontline. Our frontline are incredibly valuable, but there are so many of our team in support roles who've also just been working silently and just incredibly diligently for long hours, incredibly hard jobs, to make sure that everything happened when it should have happened as well. So it was a fully rounded team effort, and that's not to take anything away from our frontline team in our stores or in our distribution centre. It's just recognising that all boats lifted with the rising tide.
Yeah, nice. And how are you guys using Axonify today? Now that we're starting to come, you know, we're into this new normal that is highly dynamic.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd say is I think we have blown away some of our colleagues around just how powerful Axonify has been for us. That's been incredibly important. Again, part of my role is to continue to be the advocate for Axonify and learning and all of the other contributions that we can use it to do. What it's enabled us to do is made some of those conversations a little more seamless around the functionality in the platform. We've taken some of the things that we'd kicked off during COVID because we felt they could accelerate our uptake and provide value and increase engagement, and turned them into our day-to-day. The example I would give of that is our implementation of the rewards component. So we did kick that off during lockdown. We had it on our roadmap for a little bit later in the year, but we saw value, so we kicked that off, and we've kept that up, and Dave and the team have accelerated that. And some of the other bits and pieces like behaviours and observations, we're now rolling forward as well. Less so because of COVID, but more part of our strategic roadmap to really keep all of the pieces moving together. And we just know there is just so much rich functionality. And you know, that would be one of the tips or hints I'd suggest to our colleagues using Axonify around the world. It is a fantastic tool. Build slowly, build your capability, get your engagement both from your users as well as your other stakeholders, and then grow your use of the functionality, because you will get a fantastic return on that, and people will start to see the whole rather than just some of the parts.
How important has the data and analytics coming out the platform been in terms of getting your retail ops guys, CFO, head of operations and so on board? Because I know in the sessions we've recently had with them around other work we're doing with you guys, that they are so on board with this thing. So is that the key mechanism you've used to bring them on the journey? Is that the thing that's convinced them you have the level of buy-in that you have now?
Certainly what we've experienced over the last sort of 6 months has added to that. Fair to say, as they've understood more, they've become, you know, co-advocates in some respects. The challenge is, you know, managing expectations, because it's that whole, now they know what can be done, they want even more of it. So, you know, and we do have finite capacity. It's a relatively small team that I have working on this. But, you know, I think, you know, we were talking before, I think we're not quite 3 years into our Axonify journey. So that's a relatively short space of time from switching out one platform and putting in Axonify, and, you know, what we've been able to achieve. I'm astounded, really grateful to my team for all of the hard work that they've put in, and you know, would equally say, you know, I'm equally grateful to the partnership that we've had with Adaptability Group through all of this. We wouldn't be where we were today without the partnership that we've got in place.
It's a huge privilege working with you guys, for sure. You guys have a significant transformation agenda over the next 3 to 5 years. So what role do you see for your L&D and OD team and Axonify in supporting that agenda?
Axonify will be, you know, front and centre as part of what we do, helping our people. And I like to say, you know, we have 3 really important objectives here, and building capability, building confidence, and building commitment are all equally important contributors to the success of any change initiatives. And we've got some massive change ahead of us that we've embarked on. Axonify will be critical around helping people understand what's coming, where we're up to, and where it's going next, and reminding them of what they've learned. It will deliver some of our learning materials. It will be the sort of repository of much of our content for people to refer back to, and it will obviously do a fantastic job of helping keep it current in their minds through the reinforcement training and that. So look, I think Axonify is a really important tool that we're fortunate to have at our disposal over the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, great. And I suppose I alluded to it at the beginning, but you guys really, in my mind, have done a phenomenal job of starting to build a real culture of learning with regular learning habits. It's mostly that culture's being driven by use of Axonify, but there's a bunch of other stuff going on around the organisation. So what, over the last 3 years, what are sort of the 2 or 3 key learnings for you in sort of driving that culture change around learning?
Stakeholder engagement is really critical. Making sure that everyone understands what it is that we're trying to do, why we need to do it in particular ways, and how we can do that the most both efficient and effective, but effective first and efficient second. And beyond that, it's the key for us has probably been the value of partnerships. So the strategic partnership that we have with yourselves. To us, you're much more than just a reseller. It was incredibly humbling to be awarded the All-Rounder Award this year. But what we would say is, had we all been together, it would have been lovely to actually acknowledge that you really would be a co-recipient with us of that, because you have been right there alongside us right from the get-go. Nothing's too much of a problem. You've been helpful in helping us identify opportunities and helping us implement solutions. And that's really important, the openness for us to have you as our partner and to be open to bits and pieces, and your openness to, well, we would like to try this or do it that way, or that doesn't work for us because of X, and then your ability as a team to come back with, well, what about this or what about that? That's really what it's all about. No one person has won that award for us, but us is very much the collaborative Briscoe Group, capability group. We're incredibly grateful for your support around that, and we're incredibly humbled that it wouldn't have happened without the collaborative partnership that we've built together.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's a relationship that we massively value as well, and I do. You and your team have been quite remarkable in the way that you've adopted the platform, everything that's possible with that, and really embraced that idea of trying to drive a culture of learning across the business and being able to communicate internally just how that can improve the performance of your organisation. So we've really loved working with you guys, and we'll continue to do that into the future, which is cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I think we've pretty much come to the end of this, Aston. So thank you so much for your time this morning here in Auckland. It's been great chatting. I know you guys have been really good at capturing your learning and documenting what you've been doing throughout the course of this year in particular, to drive those sorts of the levels of engagement that you've got. I know you're a really open guy, always willing to share what you've learned. So anyone listening today, if they're keen to get in touch with you, I know you'll be open to that, to share a little bit more detail around some of those things if anyone's interested. So thank you again, congratulations again, and we're loving our partnership and looking forward to a whole lot more success moving forward.
Thanks, Drew. Yep, we're open to sharing with any of the Axonifam around the globe. And likewise, we'll reach out and find what we can add into our practice. We're nowhere near done yet. We've still got a lot of learning that we can take from this and implement, because every time we do something, we get a little bit better. And as I say, that all leads to increased competence, increased confidence, and increased commitment on the part of our team. And I've said it before in other forums, the front line is the bottom line. The reality is our people do really lead to our profits and the sustainability of our organisation, and we're incredibly grateful to yourselves, to the obviously to Axonify as an organisation, and they've been incredibly helpful as well, and to be part of that family. So, you know, we're going to be reaching out, stealing good ideas from others shamelessly.
The only way to do it, mate. Only way to do it. Okay, thanks very much, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks, everyone.